President Knick.
Here.
Vice President Mitrick. Schnepp Geiger, present. Commissioner DeMarco.
Present.
Commissioner Foradora.
Here.
Commissioner Fredericks.
Here.
Commissioner Sankey.
Present.
Mr. President, we have a quorum. All of our commissioners are present.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, we will have election of officers. For president, we have a nomination of Commissioner Metrick. Do I have a vote or move? Motion to move?
So moved. Second.
Do we have any other nominations? With none being heard, we have a vote on Mr. Metrick.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
For vice president, we have Commissioner Schnepp Geiger. Do we have a motion for Schnepp Geiger?
So moved. Second.
Second. Have any other nominations for vice president? None being heard. Can I have a vote, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
For secretary, we have Commissioner Fredericks. Do I have a motion for Commissioner Fredericks?
Motion. Second.
Do you have any other nominations for secretary? None being heard. Can we have a vote?
All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it.
All right, this time we're going to take a short break and we'll be back.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Game Commission to order. First of all, I would like to say I'm honored and humbled to be part of this great organization. I really look forward to the opportunity to work with the fantastic and I mean extremely dedicated people of this Pennsylvania Game Commission. So thank you very much for this opportunity. The first order of business is approval of the minutes of July 25th, 2021, September 11th of 2021, and January 29th of 2022. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Mr. President.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Attorney Brad Bechtel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item to come before the commission today is from the Bureau of Wildlife Management. It concerns proposed rulemaking to add 58 PA Code, Section 141.30 relating to bobwhite quail recovery area, to create a wild bobwhite quail recovery area surrounding the Letterkenny Army Depot in Greene Township, Franklin County. To maximize the likelihood of successful reintroduction, it is important to avoid any harvest mortality on the reintroduced population, as well as potential negative genetic effects from interbreeding with captive reared bobwhites. Implementation of a bobwhite quail recovery area will provide important protections and facilitate dispersal and expansion of the reintroduced bobwhite quail population. The boundary of the recovery area was developed using major roads surrounding the Letterkenny Army Depot that are easily identified with a minimum distance of 7.4 kilometers beyond the depot boundary. Based on average spring dispersal of quail, the 7.4 kilometer distance should provide an adequate buffer to protect almost all dispersing quail from harvest and minimize the possibility of interbreeding with captive raised quail originating from beyond the restoration area boundary. The wild bobwhite quail recovery area surrounding the Letterkenny Army Depot will cover 177.65 square miles. The text is shown on pages 2 and 3 of your agenda.
I have a motion for approval, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need discussion on the motion. Any discussion? Mr. Secretary, will you call for a vote, please?
Commissioner Nick,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Geiger,
Yes.
Commissioner DeMarco,
Yes.
Commissioner Fordor, Yes. Commissioner Fredericks, yes. Commissioner Sankey.
Yes.
The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And the next item is also proposed rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code Section 147.672 relating to definitions to remove the text limiting the application of the term private lands to lands where hunting rights have been leased and where a fee has been charged for hunting. This amendment will expand the meaning of the term private land to include lands otherwise previously ineligible for participation in the DMAP program. The quantity of land where the hunting rights have been leased and where a fee has been charged for hunting is approximately 5% as reported by hunters. By excluding DMAP on leased land, landowners address deer population concerns and their land use goals using WMU-based allocations, which may not be enough. DMAP provides an additional means for landowners to manage deer to meet their land use goals outside of the WMU-based antlerless allocations. There is no difference between DMAP on leased land and DMAP on private land with no public access, both with respect to the ideas that they can restrict hunting access and both need the proper tools to meet their goals. Historic restrictions of DMAP permits for certain lands to encourage public access did not lead to significantly more public access or prevention of leased lands. Leased lands still exist and are part of the Pennsylvania landscape. The text is shown on page 4 of your agenda.
May I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Second.
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 Mr. Secretary, could you call for a vote?
Commissioner Knick,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
discussion.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Secretary, will you call for a vote, please?
Commissioner Knick,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Geiger,
Yes.
Commissioner DeMarco,
Yes.
Commissioner Fordor,
Yes.
Commissioner Fredericks, yes. Commissioner Sankey. The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
The next item concerns the amendment of 58 PA Code, Section 141.45. On May 22, 2021, the Commission's rulemaking to remove rifles as lawful implements during fall turkey seasons became effective. Despite this change, shotguns and muzzleloaders that propel single projectile ammunition currently remain listed as permitted devices for use by hunters during fall turkey seasons in all WMUs with an open fall turkey season, excluding those portions found within areas designated as special regulation areas, WMUs 2B, 5B, 5C, and 5D. The Commission has observed that very few hunters hunt during the fall turkey seasons with a shotgun or muzzleloader using single projectile ammunition. After the changes made to this section in 2021, the Commission remains focused on identifying alternative methods of stabilizing fall turkey harvest numbers without focusing solely on further reductions in hunting opportunity as measured by season length. The Commission has determined that the elimination of shotguns and muzzleloaders that propel single projectile ammunition during fall turkey seasons may aid in this goal. The Commission is proposing to amend Section 141.45 relative to turkey to eliminate the use of shotguns and muzzleloaders that propel single projectile ammunition during the fall seasons. The text is shown on pages 5 and 6 of your agenda.
May I have a motion for approval, please?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Secretary, could you please call for a vote?
We'll do this the easy way. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And the next item appears on page 7 of your agenda. It concerns adopted rulemaking to effectively manage the wildlife resources of this Commonwealth. The Commission at its July 24, 2021 meeting amended sections 147.551 through 147.559 relating to agriculture, added section 147.551A relating to definitions, and deleted section 147.554 relating to sub-permit to update and improve the agricultural deer control permit program. These changes are not intended to take effect immediately, but rather will take effect on November 1st, 2022, to allow for a smooth transition to the new program standards. The board should be aware that staff has prepared 3 separate replacement pages for pages 8, 9, and 10. The board's consideration and adoption of these proposed floor amendment pages is necessary to satisfy form and legality concerns raised by the Attorney General's office during review of this rulemaking after proposal. So to be clear, the Commission will propose to adopt the rulemaking as it is and will need to look at those pages individually on a motion to amend to have them added.
May I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Mr. Secretary, we call for a vote, please.
Excuse me, there's for page 8, 9, and 10, there are the replacement pages. You should ask if there is anyone wishes to move this. To give you an example, there's a floor amendment for page 8. I believe everyone has that.
So we're going to do each individually?
Yeah.
Okay. On page 8 of this amendment, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Would you call for a vote, please, Mr.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
On page 9, may I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Mr. Secretary, may we have a vote, please?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Finally, on floor amendment, page 10, may I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Mr. Secretary, a vote, please.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you. So again, we need a vote on the motion now as amended. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Secretary, vote, please.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
The next item before the commission is an informational item. It concerns the release of information for Cornell University's Center for Conservation Social Sciences CWD survey. This appears on page 12 of your agenda. Cornell University's Center for Conservation Social Sciences has requested the names and contact information of New York State residents who hunt deer in Pennsylvania to conduct a CWD-related survey. The survey will assess the degree to which hunters have adopted behaviors to minimize the risks of spreading chronic wasting disease, as well as the factors that influence those behaviors. Cornell University's Center for Conservation Social Sciences will conduct a mail survey of these hunters. The survey instrument will consist largely of standardized questions. Specifically, the sample will include 3,000 New York residents aged 18 years and older who purchased a 2020 through 2021 Pennsylvania general hunting license. Data needed included names, address, phone, date of birth, and gender if applicable. After the mail survey is complete, 50 non-respondents will be contacted by telephone to determine how they differ from respondents. Data analysis will include documenting the degree to which hunters practice CWD risk minimization behaviors and assessment of the factors influencing those behaviors. This was approved by notational vote, and no action needs to take place at this time. Turning to page 13 of your agenda, Bureau of Wildlife Protection and proposed rulemaking. This item amends 58 PA Code Section 141.4 relating to hunting hours to replace the current hunting hours and migratory bird hunting hours tables to accurately reflect the dates and hours of legal hunting for the 2022 through 2023 hunting trapping license year. As an additional matter for consideration, members of the falconry hunting community have recently approached the Commission to request an expansion of various falconry hunting seasons to include the 2-week period comprising the regular firearms deer season. As a general rule, Section 141.4 establishes legal hunting hours within the Commonwealth as from 1/2 hour before sunrise to 1/2 hour after sunset. However, this section also provides 4 exceptions to this general rule, including a closure under paragraph 1 of open hunting hours for all other wild birds and wild mammals during the overlap with the regular firearms deer seasons. 6 exceptions to this hour closure for this overlap are listed for hunting game birds on regulated hunting grounds, migratory waterfowl, coyotes, feral swine, wild boar, and bear. The Commission has reviewed the expansion request submitted by the falconry hunting community and determined that it will not significantly impact other hunting activities occurring during the regular firearms deer seasons. The Commission is therefore also proposing to amend Section 141.4 to delete the closure of opening hours for all other wild birds and wild mammals during the overlap with the regular firearms deer seasons. The removal of this text will also simplify and streamline this section as a whole. It also eliminates the needs to redundantly identify and list the exceptions to the hour closure for the overlap period. The Commission has determined current season and bag limit regulations found in 139.4 relating to seasons and bag limits for the license year sufficiently controls the allowance of the hunting of these species during the period of overlap with the regular firearms deer seasons. The hours expansion for falconers during the overlap with the regular firearms deer seasons will not substantially have an intended effect until the Commission expands the falconry hunting seasons during the overlap period in Section 139.4. The remainder of the proposed changes to 141.4 are non-substantive housekeeping edits to remove the organization and clarify the text. The text is shown on pages 14 through 16 of your agenda.
May I have a motion, please? Motion for approval?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Secretary, would you call for a vote, please?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Mr. President, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
The next item is also a proposal from the Bureau of Wildlife Protection to amend 58 PA Code Section 147.305 and is shown on page 17 of your agenda. Currently, a wildlife capture and transportation permit holder is required to have a wildlife rehabilitator as a sponsor when submitting his or her initial application. However, after the permit application is submitted and approved, the permit holder no longer needs to maintain an affiliation or sponsorship with any particular wildlife rehabilitator. In fact, a wildlife capture and transportation permit holder can pick up wildlife any place at any time and transport the wildlife to the closest properly permitted wildlife rehabilitator. The Commission has observed instances where some of these wildlife capture and transportation permit holders are using this permit to pick up injured wildlife and then holding the injured wildlife and acting as an actual rehabilitator without the required permit. The Commission provides little oversight to wildlife capture and transportation permit holders once a permit is received. The Commission has no data on how active permit holders are, the volume of wildlife handled, the locations wildlife is transported to, the species of wildlife captured and transported, the location rehabilitated wildlife is transported to, or any other disposition of wildlife. Section 2907 of the Act relating to reports generally authorizes the Commission to require reports as may be needed for its operations. The Commission is proposing to amend Section 147.305 relating to wildlife capture and transportation permits to require that a permit holder submit a monthly report to the Commission documenting the species and quantity of all wildlife captured or transported, the location where the wildlife is captured, the location where the wildlife is transported to, and the disposition of deceased wildlife. The Wildlife Rehabilitation and Education Council supports this proposal. The text is shown on pages 17 and 18 of your agenda.
May I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Secretary, could you please call for a vote?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. President, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
If we turn to page 19 of your agenda, there's a proposal to amend 58 PA Code Sections 147.726 and 147.728. Each year, the Commission receives thousands of calls concerning the presence of white-tailed deer carcasses along roadways on private property. The Commission will often assign its wardens to collect and properly dispose of these carcasses as their schedules and work duties may permit. The task is not always accomplished in accordance with the expectations of the public. This is true despite the efforts of the Commission and PennDOT to contract collection and disposal efforts out to qualified vendors across the Commonwealth. Current regulations prohibit a person, licensed or otherwise, from picking up white-tailed deer carcasses from roadways and private property, except as may be authorized by a consumption permit. These restrictions limit the ability to utilize existing resources to collect and properly dispose of these white-tailed deer carcasses. The Commission is proposing to amend Sections 147.726 and 147.728 relating to operation and unlawful acts to authorize nuisance wildlife control operators to collect and properly dispose of deer carcasses from roadways and private property with or without a fee. These changes will provide residents of the Commonwealth an additional resource to address their concerns with the removal of white-tailed deer found dead along roadways and on private property. Furthermore, nuisance wildlife control operators are already currently regulated through the Commission. Therefore, these changes are simply an extension of the existing authority of nuisance wildlife control operators, not the creation of a new permitted class. Lastly, nuisance wildlife control operators are not obligated to engage in white-tailed deer collection and disposal, but rather can elect to expand their business services to include these activities at their discretion. The text is shown on pages 19 through 20 of your agenda.
May I have a motion for approval, please?
Mr. President, you want to ask for discussion?
You need a motion first.
Oh, I'm sorry. So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion on the topic?
I have a question. Does this pertain, Jason, only to whitetail deer carcasses?
Correct.
What about other carcasses?
As written, it's only. I'm sorry. You're correct, Commissioner. As written, it's only for whitetail deer carcasses. All the other big game species and some of the other species are prohibited under the other section falling down below on 147.728.
Would you be interested in applying to other big game carcasses, or apparently that's not a huge problem? Bears, turkeys, and fur bears, raccoons, coyotes.
I don't have a problem with that. We can re-propose this for the next meeting if you wish.
Well, I'd be interested to hear what the other commissioners have to say.
I'm for that. Unless there's some reason, unless there's some reason in law enforcement, like.
Well, generally speaking, those other big game species may have some information for law enforcement purposes, such as if it was killed by the side of the road or, unlawfully taken. Our officers would need that proof instead of having just a contractor coming over and picking it up and disposing of it before our officers have the ability to retrieve any of that information that carcass may possess.
Apparently white-tailed deer are the big issue.
They are the majority of our roadkills are white-tailed deer, and they're the ones that get people's attention more than some of the smaller species or the other big game species. We like to collect that for, and not just for our purposes, but we might have wildlife biological information that we gather from some of these species where there might be doing a survey and they need carcasses and stuff like that.
So if a person has a carcass other than a white-tailed deer in their front yard, can they call a wildlife?
Anything but other than those big game species.
Anything other than big game species?
Some of the other species listed under 147.728, otters, fishers, and some of those other species that we would like to get some information
We'd
from.
like to have our hands on them.
Correct, for biological reasons or for law enforcement reasons.
Okay. I'm fine with the way this is proposed. That's fine.
I think it's important to note also that this is an additional tool out there for the agency to provide better customer service for those individuals that have a deer that's hit in their front yard and they don't want to dispose of it themselves. We understand that our game wardens are very, very busy, and this is not the only thing that they have to do is run around and pick up roadkill deer all day long. So having nuisance wildlife control officers that do this generalized thing for a living, right, and allowing this as a business expansion for them is I think a good thing for the agency, a good partnership with small businesses. And important to note also, just because there was information on social media already this morning, this does not take anything previously away, right? Like you can still get your consumptive use permits. You can still, there will still be game wardens that pick up roadkill. This needs to be viewed as an additional resource for customer service for constituents across the entire Commonwealth.
You're correct.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I'm wondering, where does the public find a number to call?
So what they would do is typically they'd open up their hunting digest and there's phone numbers listed for the regional offices.
I'm talking about my next door neighbor who doesn't hunt.
They probably could call the local police department in that case.
Okay.
And then they would be directed back to the game commission. All those phone calls would come into here and then we would send that out to the appropriate state game warden to retrieve.
I think it's important that we educate the public that this service is available, or also how to access it. So,
Jason, I have a question. Is there any thought on establishing a reasonable fee that these people would charge to do that service?
We typically do not mandate that the nuisance wildlife control operators charge a certain fee for a certain species. That we've never done that before. I mean, if that's something the board wishes to look at, that's for a different matter. But we typically do not put certain fees in regulations.
Jason, question. when will the consumer be aware that there is a charge? Who will make them aware of that? The regional office? If they want it, if an officer isn't available and they want it removed immediately, how does that information get to them that we can have somebody there within a certain amount of time, but there's a charge? Or do they just turn them over to the,
They would
Business.
turn that over to they would give them a list of names for the local NUCO officers, and then the homeowner would make contact with that NUCO, nuisance wildlife control operator. That's what I mean by NUCO.
okay,
And then that person would tell them the fee for
There's a fee.
pickup if there's not a fee. But I believe, yeah, they would tell them at that point, once there's phone calls coming to us, we would redirect that to the person to a NUCO.
okay, thank you.
So really, this is not unlike regional offices getting a phone call from somebody saying, hey, I've got a raccoon in my attic.
It could be.
You know, and so that individual, that NUCO, would go out there and, because he owns the business and he's been permitted, so he's going to set his fees accordingly. So for us to get in the business of setting somebody else's fees for their business, I think is something we need to allow those individuals to do on their own.
I just brought it up because I felt that before somebody makes a call, they should have a reasonable expectation of what the cost might be. Any further discussion? Mr. Secretary, would you call for a vote?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
The next item concerns adopted rulemaking and appears on page 21 of your agenda. It is to amend 58 PA Code Section 141.47 relating to elk seasons to eliminate the outdated reference to the elk season orientation. The text is shown on page 22 of your agenda.
May I have a motion for approval, please?
Motion.
Second.
Second,
Second.
Mr. Secretary, call for a vote, please.
All those
Oh, I'm sorry.
discussion.
Discussion, please. Mr. Secretary, would you call for a vote, please?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Moving on to page 23 of your agenda, there's proposed rulemaking coming from the Bureau of Wildlife Habitat Management to delete 58 PA Code Section 135.182 relating to ranges, state game land number 176, to eliminate the outdated and unnecessary text of this provision. The commission manages the use and operation of the shooting ranges located on state game land number 176, in part under the two provisions of section 135.182. The commission manages the use and operation of the remainder of its 33 shooting ranges located on state game lands under the various provisions of section 135.108. The commission has reviewed the split regulatory structure and determined that the days and hours of operation and range reservation periods unique to the shooting ranges at State Game Lands 176 are no longer necessary. The deletion of section 135.182 will revert the management of the use and operation of the shooting ranges at State Game Land 176 entirely to the provisions of section 135.181. This deletion will result in a number of changes that are largely beneficial to users of the State Game Land 176 shooting ranges. As it relates to paragraph 1, users will see an expansion in open day shooting days to now include Mondays and Tuesdays, but will also see hours of operation on Sundays restricted to 12 noon to sunset, except those specifically designated as being open from 8 a.m. to sunset. While certainly a change to the regulatory text, the Commission does not believe that a change will be observed by users of the shooting ranges at State Game Land 176, as the Commission itself has not followed these unique days and hours of operation language for approximately 8 years. As it relates to paragraph 2, users will see the calendar of window of opportunity for groups or organizations to reserve a range reduced from year-round to January 1st through October 1st. The text is shown on pages 23 through 24 of your agenda.
May I have a motion for approval, please?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second, please. Is there a second?
second,
Second.
Mr. Secretary, Discussion, please. Mr. Secretary, would you call for a vote, please?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
If we look to page 26 of your agenda, we'll find real estate items from the Bureau of Wildlife Habitat Management. The first concerns a donation, contract number L3791, State Game Land number 87 in Clearfield County. Diversified Production LLC, formerly known as Alliance Petroleum Corporation, is offering to donate 4.59 more or less acres of land in Bell Township, Clearfield County, and interior on State Game Land number 87, as shown on Exhibit Red 1 on page 27 of your agenda. Diversified Production LLC is accepting and reserving the oil and natural gas. Access is from McGee's Mill Road.
May I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Secretary, would you call for a vote, please?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
On page 28 of your agenda appears contract number L3792, State Game Land number 145, Lancaster and Lebanon counties. Natural Lands is offering to donate 158 more or less acres of land in South Londonderry and West Cornwall Townships, Lebanon County, and Rappo Township, Lancaster County, adjoining State Game Land number 145, as shown on Exhibit Red 2 on page 29 of your agenda. Natural Lands acquisition of the property is contingent upon them receiving funding through partnership grants provided by the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, DCNR, and the United States Fish and Wildlife Service through the Highlands Conservation Act. Covenants, conditions, and restrictions associated with these funding sources will be required to accept the property. Access is from Pinch Road. Because the Highland Conservation Act funds are payable to the Commonwealth only as a reimbursement, the Commonwealth has determined the most expeditious way to move forward is for the Commission to accept a subaward for the federal funds from DCNR, provide the Highland Conservation Act award amount to Natural Lands from the Commission's restricted revenue account set up through Treasury for other cost-sharing funds, and then directly accept the Highlands Conservation Act federal reimbursement amount back into the restricted revenue account. This has the double benefit of being efficient, as well as ensuring federal dollars can be tracked directly to the acquisition project as intended by the Highland Conservation Act. The net effect to the restricted revenue account or the game fund is zero. To accomplish this, the Board of Commissioners must approve the use of the restricted revenue account, payments from the account, and the subsequent acceptance of the federal Highlands Conservation Act funds deposited into the account.
May I have a motion for approval?
I move.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Mr. Secretary, would you call for a vote?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
The next item is an acquisition that appears on page 30 of your agenda. It's contract number L3793, State Game Land number 91 in Luzerne County. Natural Lands is offering 278 more or less acres of land in Bear Creek Township, Luzerne County, adjoining State Game Land number 91, as shown on Exhibit Red 3 on page 31 of your agenda. The option price is $42,000 lump sum to be paid from the game fund. Natural Lands acquisition of the property is contingent upon them receiving funding through partnership grants provided by the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources and the Open Space Institute. Covenants, conditions, and restrictions associated with these funding sources will be required to accept the property. Access is from Meadow Run Road, SR 2038, and from Bear Creek Boulevard, SR 115.
Motion for approval?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Discussion, please. Mr. Secretary? Yep.
I'd just like to say that these last two projects here that you see from Natural Lands,
have a lot of moving parts. It talks about funds coming, funds going, and things of that nature. And I'd just like to, express our appreciation to Natural Lands for their heavy lifting in getting all this work done and bringing these great projects to us. Because without them as a partner, it just would be too difficult to pull these things together.
Mr. President, I'd like to add something to that again. Quite often we hear from our license buyers that sportsman dollars paid for all the game lands acres. And I just want to draw to attention that in a lot of cases, as Dave said, that it's very complicated. It's a big spider web and funds come from all directions. So I just want to remind everybody again that, when they say that license dollars paid for all game lands, and again, we're restricted to $400 an acre for acquisitions. So there's funding that comes from all different directions to make these acquisitions. And we're very appreciative and just want to again remind the public of how these things work. Thank you.
Dennis, thank you, and we are very, very appreciative, believe me. Call for a vote now, Mr. Secretary.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
The next item is on page 32 of your agenda, contract number L3794, State Game Land number 281 in Perry County. The estate of Pauline Ayers is offering 54 more or less acres of land in Miller Township, Perry County, adjoining State Game Land number 281, as shown on Exhibit Red 7 on page 33 of your agenda. The option price is $260,000 lump sum to be paid with the remaining escrow funds from a prior land exchange on State Game Land number 176 with the Pennsylvania State University, and will require review and approval from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Acquiring this property will close out the Penn State University escrow account and finalize the requirements to acquire replacement lands to satisfy the obligations under the land exchange between Penn State, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Commission. The difference between the remaining Penn State escrow account amount and the purchase price will require payment of funds from the Commission's restricted revenue account set up through Treasury for other cost-sharing funds. Access is from Upper Bailey Road.
I have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Dave, do you have anything to say on this?
Not on this one. This one's a lot more straightforward.
Mr. Secretary, would you call for a vote?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And before the Commission on page 34 of your agenda is an exchange, contract number L3795, State Game Land number 223, Greene County. Greylock Pipeline LLC, or Greylock, is offering a total of 192 more or less acres of land in two tracts located in Greene and Whiteley Townships, Greene County, adjacent to State Game Land number 223, as shown on Exhibit Red 8 on page 35 of your agenda. In exchange for a license for right-of-way, or the license, granting the privileges of constructing, operating, maintaining, and removing a total of 10,799 feet of 12-inch natural gas pipeline and a total of 10,803 feet of 16-inch freshwater water line, and using and maintaining a total of 3,720 feet of existing Commission access roads across a total of 13.32 acres of State Game Land number 223 in Greene and Whiteley Townships, Greene County. The license also authorized a total of 9.98 acres of temporary workspace and road use for initial construction and reclamation of the project. Greylock has agreed to convey this land to the Commission in addition to paying the Commission's standard habitat, surface, and timber damages, as well as paying the Commission's standard annual license fee so long as the license remains active. Access to Tract 1 is from Blaker Ridge Road, T622, and access to Tract 2 is from Roberts Run Road, T604.
Motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion on the motion.
Dave, I'm assuming that these minerals have been severed.
As far as I believe so, yes.
Okay.
This is another one where you look at the small impact of 22 acres that we're going to take on that game lands in a landscape that's already pretty heavily chopped up with pipelines and broken forest lands and ag lands. And you look at what we're getting in return, and it's just a credit to our field staff out there in the Southwest region, the right-of-way management staff here in Harrisburg, and how they put these projects together working with these companies. I think that's 192 acres coming back for 20 plus acres of impact plus the annual fees in this license going forward. So it's a huge benefit to the game lands and to the hunters out there.
Good job. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, would you call for a vote?
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
The next item is an informational item. It appears on page 36 of your agenda, and it concerns a notational vote. Contract L3788, State Game Land Number 297 in Washington County. On September 29th, 2021, the Board of Commissioners approved by notational vote a donation from Spring Flow Realty LLC of 288 more or less acres of land in North Bethlehem and West Bethlehem Townships, Washington County, adjoining State Game Lands Number 297, as shown on Exhibit Red 4 on page 37 of your agenda. The donated land will be subject to a life estate reserved by Spring Flow Realty LLC for the life of Richard C. Beinauer and will not be added to State Game Lands system until the life estate ends or is terminated. Spring Flow Realty LLC will be responsible for any and all taxes, insurance premiums, and mortgage payments during the period of Richard C. Beinauer's life estate. Spring Flow Realty LLC will also be responsible for maintaining the lodge located on the property in a condition as good as it is today, except for normal wear and tear, and agrees to make all necessary repairs. PGC agrees, after consultation with Spring Flow Realty LLC, to pay for any and all capital improvements and repairs, in other words, a new roof. By accepting this donation, PGC also agrees that it will maintain the lodge in its current condition indefinitely, and that the lodge will always be named and referred to as Spring Flow Lodge. Access is from Little Daniels Run Road, Urquhart Road, and Burson Road. This is an informational item only, therefore no action is required. Likewise, on page 38 of your agenda is an informational item relating to the purchase of property at auction. Subject to certain limitations, 58 PA Code Section 135.241, relating to delegation of authority, authorizes the director to bid on real estate, oil, gas, or mineral rights at auction or tax sale, and to request down payment checks to bid on property at auction. Successful bids must be made known to the general public at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Contract L3789, State Game Land Number 311 in Elk County. On September 2nd, 2021, Executive Director Brian Burhans notified the Board of Commissioners of the pending public auction sale, date of September 15th, 2021, and the urgent need to react to the sale of a 1/9 interest in the 39.76 more or less acre Lola L. Woodring Estate property located in Benezet Township, Elk County, adjoining State Game Land Number 311, as shown on Exhibit Red 5 on page 39 of your agenda. At the time of the auction, the Game Commission was the owner of a 4/9 interest in the property under Real Estate Contract L3100-2. The Game Commission was the successful bidder at the auction held by the Elk County Tax Claim Bureau, and the winning bid of $24,963, including required fees. The funding for the auction price was donated by the Keystone Elk Country Alliance. The 1/9 interest was conveyed to the Game Commission on November 1st, 2021. The Game Commission now holds a 5/9 interest in the 39.76 more or less acre Lola L. Woodring Estate property. This is an informational item only, therefore no action is required. And finally, on page 40 of your agenda is a further notational vote concerning L3790, Erie, Crawford, Venango, Forest, Warren, McKean, and Elk counties. On December 8th, 2021, the Board of Commissioners approved by notational vote a donation from Payday Holdings LLC of Frisco, Texas, of a portfolio of oil, gas, and mineral rights in Erie, Crawford, Venango, Forest, Warren, McKean, and Elk counties, as generally shown on Exhibit Red 6 on page 41 of your agenda. These OGM interests are not surveyed and have not had exhaustive title searches conducted, so the nature, quality, and extent of the interests are currently unknown. However, these interests were purchased by Payday Holdings LLC and were held in their name, such that they could be donated. This is an informational item only, therefore no action is required. The next item is on page 42 of your agenda. Concerns oil, gas, and minerals, surface coal mining agreement, state game land number 75, Lycoming County. Fisher Mining Company, FMC, of Montoursville, PA, requests approval to conduct surface coal mining operations and coal refuse disposal operations on a 115.9 more or less acre tract located on state game land number 75, Pine Township, Lycoming County. FMC is rapidly approaching the end of their current mining operation and is seeking approval to continue surface coal mining operation through Barron's Road and into a previously unmined area, as shown on Exhibit OGM-1 on page 44 of your agenda. The board previously reviewed and discussed two proposals comprising this project during the September 2013, the January 2017, and the January 2018 meetings. The board approved an initial 66-acre project in 2013 for which an agreement was never reached, tabled a 40-acre expansion proposal in 2017, and in 2018 directed staff to work with FMC to resolve all outstanding issues relative to the project. At this time, all outstanding issues have either been resolved or will be resolved in a new agreement. FMC proposes surface mining of an approximately 115.9 acre area with an estimated mineable coal reserve of 663,795 tons. As part of the operation, FMC will mine out 6 underground deep mine entries and daylight approximately 27 acres of abandoned underground deep mines. These abandoned underground mines currently discharge slightly acidic water to Bucky Run. FMC will add approximately 1,200 tons per acre of alkaline material to the pit floor and backfill during the mining process to ensure alkaline post-mining water quality. FMC also proposes to shunt alkaline post-mining drainage into the upper reaches of Bucky Run to increase alkalinity of the stream. The proposed agreement is for a 10-year term, which will commence upon the issuance of a valid surface mining permit to FMC by the Department of Environmental Protection. All merchantable timber to be cut and or impacted by this mining operation will be assessed by the Commission's North Central Regional Forestry staff at double stumpage rate and shall be paid to the PGC prior to cutting. FMC will pay the Commission a royalty of 12% FOB pit price for each ton of coal mined and sold from the 115.9 acre mining area. Royalty payments will be made by FMC on a monthly basis, with all payments being deposited into the game fund. A portion of Barron's Road will be closed to allow the mining to progress through the road. Traffic will be routed through the existing roads to maintain continuity of traffic between English Center, the western boundary of State Game Land number 75, and the DCNR State Forest boundary near the village of Okome. Portions of the alternate route will need to be upgraded at the expense of FMC and maintained at the expense of the PGC. FMC will also apply for bond release on portions of the Thomas mine permit and open up the area to the hunting public. The exact boundary of the open area will be determined based on sight lines and safety distances from the active operation. The reclamation plan will incorporate the Appalachian Reforestation Reclamation Initiative forest reclamation approach to achieve post-mining land uses of wildlife habitat and forest land. FMC agreed to replace the existing stream crossing on Bucky Run at the Hall Road to allow for adequate aquatic organism passage. FMC will also complete a water quality or aquatic habitat improvement project on the right fork of Otter Run. Further, FMC, upon the receipt of both an executed agreement and a surface mining permit for the Thomas Northeast 2 mine from the Department of Environmental Protection, will convey 7 parcels of contiguous land located in North Union Township, Schuylkill County, consisting of approximately 1,325 acres of land, as shown on OGM-2 on page 45 of your agenda. Mining will be regulated by the Commonwealth Surface Mining Regulations and the Commission's Surface Mining Agreement.
May I have a motion for approval, please? Again, may I have a motion for approval, please? Hearing no motion for approval, the proposal fails.
The next item appears on page 46 of your agenda. It concerns non-surface use oil and gas production cooperative agreement, track 313A22, state game land number 313 in Tioga County. Seneca Resources Company LLC, or Seneca of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, requests the commission to offer its oil and gas ownership under state game land number 313 for development. The proposed tract 313A-22, containing approximately 408.7 more or less acres of oil gas interests, is located in Del Mar and Chatham Townships, Tioga County, as shown on Exhibit OGM 3 on page 47 of your agenda. Seneca has a dominant and virtually exclusive lease position surrounding state game land number 313. Seneca is actively drilling wells in the proximity to state game land number 313 and has a multi-year plan to continue such drilling. Consequently, no other developer is likely to have an opportunity for developing shale gas resources from beneath state game land number 313. Seneca's track record as an existing PGC lessee demonstrates their ability to provide significant revenue to the commission while protecting and conserving the important wetland habitat that predominates state game land number 313. Commission staff has negotiated with Seneca to safeguard the prudent development of the commission's oil and gas resources and to simultaneously minimize impacts to wildlife and recreational use of state game lands number 313. Under this non-surface use oil and gas production cooperative agreement, Seneca will pay the commission a bonus totaling $1,500 per net mineral acre, paid incrementally over a 10-year primary term, and a royalty rate of 16% per 1,000 cubic feet, or MCF, for all oil, gas, and liquid hydrocarbons produced and sold from the premises. The bonus payments will be made in annual installments dependent upon acreage unitized or ununitized at that time. In other words, acreage unitized within the preceding year will have the balance of its annual $150 per acre per year amount paid off in its entirety. The total bonus to be paid will be $730,500 over the 10-year primary term. The first payment of $73,050 will be due within 60 days of the execution of the agreement. The second and subsequent installments will be due annually on the anniversary date of the agreement. All bonus and royalty payments will be deposited into the game fund. Seneca's oil and gas development under this agreement will be regulated by the Commonwealth's oil and gas regulations and the Commission's requirements for protection and conservation of state game lands with respect to oil, gas, and liquid hydrocarbon production.
May I have a motion for the motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion on the motion. Mr. Secretary, would you call for a vote, please?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And that concludes the formal written portion of this agenda.
So that moves us into new business.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if I may, under new business, it seems as though there may be some anecdotal evidence that we're having an issue getting enough antlerless tags into the right hands in people in special regulations areas under the new regulations that we promulgated, casually termed as burn one, earn one. And basically it involves the maximum number of tags in those WMUs. It limits it at 6. So you have to harvest one before you can get another tag. And with that cumbersome process, it's not particularly an issue, doesn't seem to be in those respective WMUs, but it does seem to be an issue in Allegheny County in the west and those couple counties in the east, that are special regulations areas. And I'd like to ask with all your approval to charge the Bureau of Wildlife Management, and if you could work with Bureau of Automated Technology and see if you can't come up with some kind of a solution. I have no suggestions. But, the little bit of information that I have, again, anecdotally, it seems as though those people who functioned under the old system, their number of tags that they received and the number of deer that they harvested in those special regs areas have been cut by 50%. It seems that way.
Sure. Well, what we can do is reach out to BATS and put together a briefing paper and brief the board and then possibly come back in and brief the public as well.
Thank you very much.
Happy to do that.
Appreciate it, Matt.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Schnoop, there's been some interest and talk about scents and attractants for deer. I would appreciate it if you could look into that and possibly give us some type of briefing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner. We, as you know, everything with CWD is contentious and can be frustrating at times. And as an agency, we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. So we're happy to look into that further and provide the same briefing paper and possible public comments or a public presentation as well.
Thank you. I have another item for rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus. We need to talk about the approach plan.
Sure. Yeah. If you recall, Dr. DeSalvo presented an overview of the RHDV plan in the September 2001 commission meeting. The plan was developed to minimize the introduction risk and impact of RHD in Pennsylvania's native wild and rabbit and hare populations while fostering stakeholder support. And so we reached back out to the public, got public input. Most of it was positive and very supportive of the agency's standpoint on that. And so basically, just because we weren't able to approve that during our last commission meeting, we're asking the board to consider approval during this commission meeting.
May I have a motion for approval? May I have a motion for approval of what?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Secretary?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it,
Thank you.
President.
I have one final thing I'd like to bring up. We need to talk about the deer and elk antlerless allocations.
Yes, sir. As you know, yesterday we had David Stainbrook come in and provide the antlerless deer and as well as our elk allocations. And so again, that would just take an approval from the board.
I'll move that if it's proper, or do we need to see them? Or did you
We
post
have a
them?
motion.
Yeah, I have a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
You presented them yesterday, correct?
Yes, sir. That
Yeah.
is correct.
Yes.
I didn't know if you were going to put them on the screen again.
We were just going to,
Okay.
go through.
Motion.
As
Thank
a
you.
complete one.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Mr. Secretary?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
The ayes have it, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it then. With that, that concludes the meeting. The next meeting of the commission will be on July 25th will be on July 9 of 2022. Thank you.
Slam your gavel, buddy.